Are you planning to move to Portugal but can't decide between Lisbon and Porto? With the rich history, stunning architecture and vibrant culture, no wonder it's difficult to pick one. But don't worry, in this video I'm gonna talk about both cities, share some insight, pros and cons, so by the end of this video you can pick the best city to live in Portugal just for you. And let's start with size and population. Lisbon, Portugal's capital, is the largest city in the country with around 500,000 people living in here. But if we take into consideration the whole metropolitan area, the number of people living in the area would be around 3 million. On the other hand, Porto is the second largest city in Portugal, with a population of approximately 240,000 people. Its metropolitan area is home to 1.7 million people. Porto offers a more relaxed atmosphere compared to Lisbon. I feel like less tourists go to Porto, even though it's a popular destination in the country. Many people choose to move to Portugal because one thing: climate. And Lisbon has definitely a milder climate compared to Porto. Winters here are not that harsh. I mean, it's still cold. If you've been following me for quite a while, you know that the coldest winter I've experienced was here in Lisbon, because outside is +15 and inside is +15. I mean, not really nice. I feel like Lisbon offers more sunshine and warmth, while Porto, which is located up north, can be perfect for people like myself, for people who like colder weather, maybe some rainy days. I've also noticed that fall comes earlier in Porto because it's simply up north. In Lisbon you need to wait till like November or something, but once we went to Porto in like September or October, I think it has already started, the fall thing. When it comes to cost of living, first of all, you need to remember that Portugal is super expensive now, especially if we're talking about major cities like Lisbon and Porto. Lisbon is just crazy. If you take a look at the website called Nomad List, where digital nomads share their experience, even there you will find comments like Lisbon is super expensive, it is overpriced, while Porto is still more on the affordable side. Lisbon's market became oversaturated. The rent prices are just ridiculous. If you want to buy something, same thing. Apartments that used to cost 1,000 now cost 2,000, so Lisbon is getting like really expensive. Meanwhile, in Porto you can still find cheaper options. If, let's say, you move into Portugal but you have a tight budget, or you just don't want to spend so much money on rent, Porto is the answer. However, please bear in mind that Porto is becoming Lisbon. Honestly, the prices are going up. I don't know if Porto will be like Lisbon one day, but that's the reality. So if you chose to live in a city, you'll probably want to hear about transportation. When it comes to transportation, both Lisbon and Porto have their own advantages. As for Lisbon, the network of public transportation is more extensive compared to Porto. We have metro, buses, trains, trams, and those yellow trams, they're not only for tourists. Some local people, some of my friends even, they take those trams to navigate the city. Porto's public transportation system is smaller, you only have metro and buses. However, if you need to get somewhere, you'll get there easily. Transportation costs in both cities are relatively affordable. In Lisbon, I think it's around €1.50 for one ride. And actually, I just saw today on Instagram that Lisbon, they launched contactless payment. So if you're a tourist, if you visit in Lisbon, you don't have to buy those metro cards. You can just tap your phone, tap your card and use the metro. Amazing. Again, don't forget, if you're on the older side, if you are on the younger side, you can always benefit from public transportation. In Portugal, there are different types of passes. So if you're, let's say, a student or a minor, you'll pay less for your transportation card. If you're 65 or older, you will also get some discounts. Both cities have airports, railway stations, so if you're planning to, let's say, travel from Portugal, it will be easy from both cities. But one thing to note, that Lisbon has more international options available compared to Porto, so if, let's say, you're planning to go to a certain city quite often, check beforehand where you have direct flights. Or if you don't mind, you can always drive from Porto to Lisbon and take a plane from here. When it comes to jobs and education, Lisbon, being a bigger city, will offer you more options. On the other hand, Porto is known for technology and creative sectors, making it an attractive destination for those working in those fields. In terms of higher education, Lisbon is home to many universities that are really prestigious in the country. For example, Nova University or University of Lisbon. But Porto also have good universities, such as University of Porto or Polytechnic Institute of Porto. Both cities offer a variety of different programs, different fields and research opportunities. As for the jobs, again, Lisbon is a bigger city, so there are more jobs available. However, Porto is still a major city in Portugal, so you can expect to find a job there. Lisbon is famous for finance, for tourism, hospitality, while Porto, as I mentioned before, is famous for technology, creative sector, making it a hub for startup people and entrepreneurs. And if you're worried about communities, I think both Lisbon and Porto have expat communities where you can always find friends, you can always find people to talk to, you can find plenty of networking events, different conferences. And while Lisbon is a home to more international events, Porto is famous for hosting local events. When it comes to nighttime, entertainment, attractions, both Lisbon and Porto offer a whole lot of things. If you want to go listen to Fado, you can find it in both cities. If you want to eat francesinha, same thing. You want to go out, same. The only difference I would say is architecture. Lisbon is a city from those pictures, from postcards, you know, with the bright buildings, stuff like that, while Porto is something else, I would say. It's just hard to explain. It's a beautiful city. The architecture is super different from Lisbon. I'd say that Porto's architecture is dominated by romantic, baroque, neoclassical styles, or even Gothic styles, giving the city this charming atmosphere. In terms of food, you have many options to choose from in both cities. You can find traditional Portuguese tascas, you can find expat cafes, you can find craft coffee, craft beer, like anything you can think of, you can find in both cities. And I feel like with more people moving to Lisbon and Porto, the food industry, like the restaurant scene, is growing rapidly, so you don't have to worry if you can find your favorite meal from home, because I'm pretty sure, give it like a year, you'll find it. When it comes to beaches, you can find beaches both in Lisbon, in Porto, and while Porto might have fewer options compared to Lisbon, you can still find some beaches near Porto. One thing to know, that ocean is freaking cold. I warned you. I do not swim in the ocean, my husband, however, does. So if you like warm water, go to Algarve, go to the south of Portugal, because if you're planning to swim, no. The water is like plus 18 Celsius all year round. So yeah, not ideal for swimming. But if you're planning to go to the beach, just, you know, enjoy the sunshine, the waves, stuff like that, I'll think you find some places in both cities. As for the general vibe, again, as I mentioned before, Lisbon is a more touristy place. You have lots of visitors everywhere. But that's what makes Lisbon, Lisbon, I find. It's lots of people outside, partying, doing things, going out. The city is a part of different cultures, which is evident in its diverse neighborhoods, restaurants, events. The city is always alive. Honestly, if you go downtown Lisbon to those, you know, Pink Street and stuff, people just never sleep. They just party all the time, they do things. But if you'd like a more Portuguese experience, a more laid-back experience, I think Porto is an excellent choice. I feel like the city is super nice, alive as well, but not as alive as Lisbon, if you know what I mean. As I've mentioned before, the architecture of Porto is just stunning. I think it's even a UNESCO heritage, so if you go to Ribeira, the oldest district in Porto, you'll see what I mean. Although Porto is a smaller city, it still offers a variety of restaurants, events, just on a more intimate scale compared to Lisbon. So we're almost done. Which city should you pick, Lisbon or Porto? I feel like both cities have pros, they have cons, and ultimately the decision will come from your personal preference. One thing I forgot to mention is that both cities are quite hilly, so for example, if you're a family with a newborn, I feel like you'd be better off in flatter, I would say, neighborhood or city, because it would be hard to navigate with a stroller. If you're coming from a bigger city, fast-paced city, I feel like Lisbon would be a perfect fit for you because of the vibrant culture, nightlife, job opportunities. And if you prefer a smaller city, you want a quiet, peaceful life, Porto is the place to be. Regardless of which city you choose, Portugal is a beautiful country. You can always move, you can explore other options. There are other cities that are really nice. You can go to Faro, to the south of Portugal. You can go up north to, I don't know, Guimarães. Maybe you like it more there. And this is it for today. I hope you liked this video. If so, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!